Coming to you from the M&M Exterior Studio in Nooksville, Virginia, this is Flushing It Out with Samantha Spittle, the introvert's extrovert. She talks to people so you don't have to. For now.
Well, as anyone knows that listens to you and I, or if they follow you and I, they know that we write for the Her Growth Collective together.
Woo-woo.
And so
Collective.
Love that. And so collaborating with women that have similar but different views, kind of different perspectives for sure. And I know you and I we always seem to overlap with a lot of our thoughts, and it's the messy middle and the opportunity. Those are like the two things that I feel like just that everything is an opportunity for that growth. And when you talked about the sidelines, how many of us, someone just said recently, how many people are sleepwalking through life?
Yes. It's another analogy.
Were you and I, is that something that we were in a conversation together with? I can't remember.
Maybe, but I don't know.
I don't know. But how many people are sleepwalking through life? And it's almost like if you use that analogy of the football game, it's like how many of us are sitting on the sidelines, but we think we're playing in the game. You think you're in the game and suddenly you wake up and it's like, oh, actually, I've just been sitting here. I thought I was playing.
Right.
Or you're playing someone else's game.
Exactly. And the other analogy too is who the hell's driving your bus?
Mm-hmm.
You think you're driving, but you're not really driving.
Mm-mm.
You have fear driving your bus.
Yeah.
Or you have mom and dad driving the bus.
Yeah.
Or you've got societal expectations or whatever it is driving your bus. You don't even realize it until later.
Seriously. All right. So you are, yeah, I know there's so many. Okay. So
let's
go. Returning guest.
Yes.
Selfish mama, coach.
Yes.
So give a quick recap in case people have not listened to your last episode of just basically, because I know and just to do my own little recap for everyone. We talked before, I think, about your kind of journey to becoming selfish mama, focusing on moms and not moms, yourself, and your journey to awareness. What word do you use? I just lost it, but
awareness, consciousness.
Yeah. Just being aware. And I think that's like the whole, I'm getting in the game versus sitting on the sidelines. And so people can go back and listen to that first one of kind of your journey there. Yeah. So where are you today? So you've been on that journey for a few years of, let's call it waking up, maybe, waking up, becoming aware. Aware, that's the word we use a lot, you and I too, aware. Yeah. It's becoming aware. So now as we get into this whole, every moment is an opportunity, getting off the sidelines, give me a quick recap of how did you get from that new awareness and that aha to where you are now? What's this window of time been like?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. Well, the awareness didn't happen until I went to become a life coach, mm-hmm. right? That's when the light bulbs came on for me and I kind of realized what I had been missing the whole time. That's when I realized that I had been watching the game versus playing the game. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I'm sure I talked about it in the prior one with telling the whole story. But, I went to become a life coach to get a new career because I thought my job was sucking the life out of me.
Yeah.
And it was, but it also was, even though it was a great opportunity to be able to have a new career, I didn't expect for it to transform my own life. Mm-hmm. And so the program itself was a hybrid program where you went for, weekend training, then you attended training remotely and then went for another weekend. It was that thing for pretty much a whole year. And after the very first weekend, I went back to the job and realized it wasn't the sucking the life out of me, right? That's awareness in a weekend.
Because it was you, it wasn't the job.
It was me. Yeah.
And how much of life it's not about the thing. The thing is never the thing. It's always.
Oh my God. And don't we say that all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And it couldn't have been the first time I had heard it, but apparently I was in a position to hear it.
That's why we need to keep hearing stuff.
Right?
It's like, that's why you keep listening to the podcast. That's why you keep reading books. That's why you can read the same book, listen to the same podcast, watch the same show and movie, and you get something different every time because it depends on where we're at, what we need to hear. So
that's so true. So, awareness started in a weekend. And after that, it was just, man, I had to practice big time. So, the evolution kind of looks like, the best way that I can probably describe it is intentionality, right? Like I showed up, I started to play the game in 2016, because that's when I became a life coach. And so 2017, I started to adopt words of the year. This kind of might show some type of path, and you'll have to let me know, being an external judge of it all. But 2017, my word was awareness, because I had just gotten it. So I was like, okay, I don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
I can't lose it. Right. I was desperately afraid of losing it. And so for 2017, I blogged every single day for the entire year. And it helped me practice that skill and develop that muscle, because every single day I knew I had to write something by the end of the day about awareness. How aware was I? Right. And it cultivated it so deeply within me that I don't ever fear losing it now, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
2018, my word was intention. 2019 was opportunity. And oftentimes people consider that word, of course, because they're just looking for opportunities, but I wanted to find opportunity and challenge too. So setting that word as my word of the year helped me always reframe things and ask myself what the opportunity is. 2020, my word was trust. Trust myself, trust the process, trust the universe, trust how things are unfolding. And you picked that in
January.
I did.
You picked that before.
Actually, I picked it in December of 2019. Yeah. And man, did that play out in a year that none of us had control. Right. And so this year, my word is alignment. And so that kind of, I don't know if there's a path there.
Yeah.
Even if it's not externally seen, for me, it's my path.
For sure. It's definitely an internal path, definitely not external. That's why what I heard is that you were building the muscle. And that's the part that of all the people I've talked to that do mindful work, whether it's coaches, therapists, counselors, pastors, anything, it comes down to building the muscle. And so I think that for me is like, the way you walked through it. I loved that you shared the words and how you walked through it, because that's something people can hold on to, is like, that's maybe something that gives you something to focus on. And to, like you said, I loved what you said about the opportunity. You were able all year to just, what is the opportunity here? And then trust, like, what a year for 2020. I mean, that was constantly on your mind. So I feel like that's a little divine intervention there of these words that just allow you to almost have that rhythm. It gives you a rhythm to your life, but it's the building the muscle. And that's what I was saying with everyone I've talked to, because I'm the type, and I have to fight this because I have to remind myself of this. I want to figure it out and then I'm done with it. Like, forgiveness is a great topic.
Can I laugh out loud?
Oh, please laugh out loud. So
I wish. Can we all sign up for that? I'm done with this lesson now. Can we not have repeat?
Well, like two examples I can give. I'll give the funny one first. So potty trained the daughter, read a book, did it in a weekend. And I didn't externally try to say this, but I'm sure my internal energy got exuded, which was, if everyone would just read the book and do it like that, like, I have the answers, I'll give you the recommendation. And then I had a second kid, and that did not go down like that at all. And so that's like a kind of example of like, oh yeah, it does not work like that. And then like the more real heavy kind of stuff is like forgiveness. When you hear people talk about forgiving someone, it makes it sound like it's a one-time deal. Like, you do it, and then if you've truly forgiven them, then you're free of it.
Yes.
And now that I'm older and, more life experience, it's like, oh, forgiveness, no matter whether it's for something big or small, like it's just a constant thing. Like, so because those feelings, I thought it was supposed to be that, like, if you did that, it just went away, or if you became aware as a parent and you saw your children as the wonderful whole person they were, I wouldn't be whatever. But guess what? I still am, because it's a daily thing we have to do. And so it's that strengthening the muscle, that it's not an overnight thing. And the thing is as we strengthen the muscle, our reactions, our emotions, all that stuff, they might not be as high and low, or it might not be as much of a struggle, just if we think about lifting, heavy weights, but we still have to work it. If you don't put in the work, then that muscle goes away. So
right.
It's just constant intention.
Exactly.
So,
and that's why I blogged every single day.
Yeah.
After my life coaching, because the life coaching program was so immersive and so demanding mentally and energetically that it was almost like, what am I going to do now? Now that it's done, what's going to happen? And blogging every single day was a way for me to kind of hold on to something.
Yeah.
Practice that which was so impactful for me.
Yeah.
To make sure that I didn't lose it. So yeah, it's constant practice.
That's awesome. So you definitely haven't lost it. So now we're to today. You've been on this journey. These words have been changing. And like I said, I think it's great that you chose them before the life experience, but they probably are indicative of the life experience of that next year. And so now today, where are you at?
Yeah. So it's been such a process and evolution, and my journey with, my business and what I'm doing on the planet has really boiled down to the fact that I myself want to enter every single engagement in my life, whether it is business or friendship or my marriage, parenting, whatever it is, through the lens of who am I being in this moment? And, how am I serving? What should I be offering? What does this mean about me? And that's why I love the name Selfish Mama, because I think it's so frequently misunderstood because people think it's about self-care, which, hello, mama should be tending to themselves. Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
No problem. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
But it's not what my business is all about. My business is all about self, like the power of self, right? Because we as moms have so much power. We continue the human race. Can we just take a moment? We continue the flippin' human race. And yet, almost at every turn, we give our power away. Subconsciously or consciously. And
that's a whole rabbit hole we could go down with giving our
power
away.
So I chose the word alignment this year because I really felt like I wanted to dig in this year to making sure that I'm in alignment with what my soul came here to do. Because I feel like that is the power of self, right? When we step into our power, we say we are co-creating this thing called life, right? We accept that there's some bigger plan. And I mean, hello, we're all walking on a big rock that is floating in space. Come on, y'all. There's definitely more to life than just what we can see on this earth, right? And even the blades of grass that we can see.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on, right? So we all know what it feels like to have that different perspective, even at 10,000 feet. Could you imagine what it is from the universe? Right? And so I just feel like every single thing that we have going on is really about us. All of the relationships, all of the opportunities, all of the lessons, all of the struggle, all of it is meant for our best good. And are we willing to see it as that? Right? I feel like, you know, and we talk about this a lot, I know in her growth collective, and I know we didn't, I don't think we talked about it really, but her growth collective is just a group of women that I kind of invited to share their opinions about self-development topics, because I really wanted to just push myself. And I was intrigued by something that Brene Brown said on an interview. And she said that she hated the term self-help because our personal growth wasn't meant to be done alone. And I was like, oh my God, that's so genius. That's true. You know,
I always say better together. It's the sign that's off camera.
Exactly. It is. Right. And I think her growth collective has proven that.
For
right.
sure.
We all write about these topics and we have no idea what the other's going to write about. And so we open ourselves up to a perspective and to be challenged. Right.
For sure.
And so we talk often about triggers, you know, in HGC and probably in all the aspects of our business, right? Because in some form or facet, we're all exploring what self-help means to us, whether it's personally in our own lives or because of our businesses or whatever. And what if we all went through life looking at triggers as something to be inspected, not rejected?
Yes, because
right?
the question I just had, because you and I have talked about this before, is are we even fully living if we don't examine our triggers? Because as you said, because I always try to give you credit for this, like is it the invitation? Like you just said, it's the invitation to dig deeper. And so I talk a lot about the opportunity. You know, we pretty much got through 2020 with thank you for the opportunity, because that was our reframe of every time there's a trigger. And it's that invitation, like there's some hurt there that, you know, either needs to be tended to or growth. But trigger is has such a negative connotation. But when we're able to sit with it, and that's why for us, you know, I've talked, I think before about Jeremy and I know I've written about it with HGC, but like, thank you for the opportunity. It was literally our way of being like, whatever's happening, you know, if there's a conversation or something that we're talking about, and it's that feeling, by kind of stopping and saying, thank you for the opportunity. There's something here. And so our nature wants to turn away from it and like, not deal with that. But then when you actually lean into that stuff and work on those things, that's when like, I feel like real life begins. Like,
I agree. But I don't think that there's enough of that going on. Right. And that's a really fantastic example of what I mean by power of self. Right? Are you even looking at how you are responding to this trigger, this external thing to you? Because that is the work. You are here to do that work. And if you chose to do that work,
that's why so many people are on the sidelines.
Right?
Because they're not,
Right. But we've been conditioned, I think, to run away from it because it's uncomfortable.
And one thing I've learned about triggers recently, so triggers, one, it has a negative connotation for a reason. I mean, when there is deep trauma and pain, you know, triggers are very painful and very bad. But an aha moment I had recently is that triggers aren't always negative things. Because I recently told someone, I'm really proud of you. And because I have awesome people in my life, they said like, because, you know, I have a lot of conversations like this with badasses like you, where like, something's coming up in me. Like, I'm not loving that you said that, but it's not about you. It's about me, you know? So then I started thinking about, well, why did I say that to that person? So I'm laying in bed at 11 o'clock at night. I was like, oh my gosh, me telling her that I was proud of her. I was actually recognizing that I was proud of myself, but it was easier for me to recognize it in her. So like I was triggered by her journey and to feel that, and it really didn't have anything to do with her. Like I thought it did, because I thought, and as I that's why I said I was so glad. Like, and like I said, she didn't bring it up in a bad way. We just were having this kind of conversation. And I just laid there like, oh my God, it is about me. Because we talk about that. My pastor and I have a whole series on the thing is not the thing, and how what he does a lot is trying to help people kind of look at themselves internally. Because it's the same idea, just with him, it's through the Christian lens, that it's like, this is all stuff for us. Everything's an opportunity for us to dig deep. And so, like I said, even that was for me, it was like, it does not always have to be bad stuff or hard stuff, but just being good. Like, what was this saying about me? So anyway, that just for me was like, I never thought of that. Here I thought like, I'm just being nice and loving on you and encouraging you. But nope, I really was unpacking some of my own stuff without realizing it.
Now, here's the question I have for you. How did you know to inspect that more?
Well, because I do that 24/7 with many things.
I do too. That's why I'm asking.
I know. I'm like, I just always do that. Oh gosh, look, now I'm on the other side. I'm like, that's a great question. Let me think. Well, one is because I think I'm in the space of so many people. And by so many people, I don't mean so many people. I just mean like who I'm spending my time around are people who peel back the layers. And so because it was in a conversation where it was, it already started to have the layers peeled back. So it made me continue peeling it back. And actually, if I want to get real personal, like real honest, I should say, because podcasts are a place for honesty. It probably came from an insecure place of, so even though the person had responded saying like, don't love the way that makes me feel. And even though like it was made clear that I did nothing wrong, but that's some of my, internal saboteurs and whatnot over like things where it was like, you did something, you made someone feel bad. So I tried to really unpack like, what is that? Why did I do that? But not from a place of judgment. Because I'm really working on, and we did this positive intelligence program. And with that, it talks a lot about blameless discernment. So it's moving from a place of judgment to blameless discernment. So I think it was sparked by a little internal judgment of feeling like, I may have done something bad, but I moved it into that blameless discernment and just and that's for me, that's my trick I've realized to digging deeper is trying to switch from that. And you and I have talked about that too, that yes, not being judgmental. Yes. And so I was kind of able to say like, what did spark it in me to say that? And so even though it's like the first layer it was about that person, as I dug deeper with blameless discernment, I saw, it's really recognizing stuff in them that I see in me, but that of course I judge myself, discount. Actually, I discount it in myself, but in others, I can recognize it. And so I was like, I think that was actually my way of doing that. But yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that because I feel like sometimes when we talk about triggers, I think it might feel or look different for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. We might think that we all respond or behave the same.
Yeah.
And I think it's really evident when we get angry, right? Because you've been triggered, right? But for me, it doesn't always show up as anger. It certainly used to. I used to be like a raging mom. And there might have been some postpartum stuff happening there. I'm not sure. Yeah. But aside from that, anger is like a very clear trigger, right?
Yeah.
But for me, and this is where that alignment thing comes in too, it's how do I feel? Like if I keep ruminating over something, there's something that's bothering me, which I think is kind of what you're talking about.
For sure.
But there's also like that weird, like something happens within me. So you know how people talk about like getting chills or something like that. Like I can literally get like some heat coming up in me or I'll get some type of body awareness. And I did not have body awareness before I went through life coaching. Let me just say, I gave a lot of power to this mind up here. And our bodies hold a lot of wisdom, by the way. So tuning into how my body responds to something in the moment, right? Somebody's saying something to me, as in your case, you say something to somebody else, right? Like our body sometimes has something to say and we're like, what's that? You know, like our body is speaking to us and it doesn't even, we haven't even figured out mentally what it means yet. And so all of those are triggers. Yeah.
Well, and that's why, you know, when with the example I used, that was with a safe person. You know what I mean? Because that would be weird to bring up, like someone says something to you and you like that, you know, that's why it's important to have those safe kind of conversations where that, because it's like, if you almost have, it's that social agreement where it's like, okay, we're going to kind of work on our stuff. So when we have a conversation, we're going to be in the safe place where we can acknowledge and notice stuff. Cause of course it's not always able to do that, but it's funny. You talked about the difference. Jeremy and I were having a conversation once and it was like some triggering thing. And I basically said how I was triggered about something. And so eventually I ended up telling him what I felt. On the outside, I was totally stoned. Like I was just sitting there, like not saying anything, but I told him what was on the inside. And on the inside was every curse word, tearing apart the room, throwing things everywhere. I mean, just raging. The Incredible Hulk. 'Cause we just watched Avengers last night. I mean, I was raging. Yeah. And this was such, I feel like a healthy, like helpful thing is that he's like, wow, when you said you were triggered, when he gets triggered, and, you know, he edits this so he can make sure that it's appropriate for me to share this on the public thing. And just a little side note, he said, you know, I'm so glad you shared that because I thought when I get triggered, so therefore I thought you were feeling the same thing. I shut down. Like there's nothing, like it's because he's triggered. And so his trigger response is just nothing. And because I said something like, I'm doing all in my power right now to keep from raging the F out. Like, so I'm like you talked about your body, like my body is like on fire because I could just rage. And it just was one of those things that I thought, man, had I not told him how I felt, because I assumed it was the same thing for him. So if he would get triggered and not say anything to me, that I would rage more, you know, like I, in my head would be like, well, he's just not telling me. I didn't realize that his mind went blank, right? Where mine just went into overdrive. Such a simple thing. And that's a whole other side note on triggers and whatnot and trauma. But it's
but it's a really important discussion to have, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Because I think we throw that term around a lot. And again, kind of coming back to our power. What does it even look like for you? If you're not even paying attention anyway, you're trying to deflect or run away from it or blame somebody for triggering you in the first place because you don't think it should have happened. But if we lean into our mess, I was going to curse, but I wasn't sure if I was
You can. Go ahead. Whatever.
Okay, good. If we're supposed to lean into our shit, then F and own that. Take your power back. What does that mean for you? And at the end of the day, it could be, that person's just an asshole. It might be. It might be. Okay. It might be. Let's just be real. Right. Not everything has to come back to something we have to fix. I'm not trying to insinuate that.
Yeah. I'm so glad you made that point. Cause when we say like what I've learned, it's like, oh, it's all about me. And it doesn't mean it's all about me to do anything about it. It just means there's obviously something to me that like, I want to do something. Maybe it's that I need to work through not doing something.
Exactly. And you so artfully even described like the fact that you were triggered and you had this internal rage, but yet you weren't allowing it to be externally shown or displayed, right? That's some effort and management and regulation on your part to be able to, right? Not have that come out that way. And, you know, there's a lot of us who need to practice that, you know, more. So kudos to you for doing that. But
got a lot of practice, you know, that's what 2020. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
There you go. There you go. Right. But it also is that double-edged sword, like you're talking about, because if people aren't digging deeper and having that conversation, especially with partners, hello, we're all stuck at home together, or right? Think about in times past. I'm not asking you, of course, it's just a rhetorical question for everybody to ponder. Would you have been the type, because you were so triggered, to have escaped and left the situation, right? For fear of maybe not being able to manage it and really artfully engage further, right? But our current situation has offered the invitation for us to really start to see one another. And that's really the beauty of 2020. I mean, if you think about it, 2020 is, meant to be perfect vision, right? And I feel like it offered that in spades.
Yeah.
It offered a lot of sucky crap too. Like nobody wants a pandemic. Yeah. But at the same time, man, for those of us who are willing to do the work, holy crap.
Well, it makes it suck even more if we don't do the work. If we can't find the goodness from it, it makes it even a shittier thing. Like it's shitty enough as it is. And so it's funny because I don't know if I've talked about this on Her Growth Collective or not, but like for us, because of some work that we were doing pre-pandemic, it allowed the time to be, for us personally, like a healthy time, because we needed that time. It doesn't change the heartbreak of everything happening, but I recognize that had we not started doing the work before, it could have looked so different, with walking through things. And so with people, it's like, I think you talk about becoming aware. And I feel like my journey is different, but if I'm just but I could definitely say that there's been things like awareness around certain stuff and totally mind blown and growth and things like that I think once you kind of experience that, get to the other side of something, and you can recognize a before and an after. So that's kind of the thing when I said my journey's different. I feel like this is kind of something that ever since I think I was like a kid, have been having these kind of conversations. So that awareness was like always bubbling. But because of some opportunities in life, there's now this like, I thought I had life figured out one way. Oh, okay. It's not, okay. Which I think we all have to have that moment where, so it might unfold differently for each of us. But I think once you've kind of realized that, and this is the other thing I get reminded about a lot, is like, oh, Sam, you think you had your moment and it's done now. Because remember in the beginning of the conversation, Tina, I said, I like to just boom, done. So I even feel like my 2020 is like, oh my gosh, that was like, there was so hard, but so much opportunity for growth. Like, you guys, I did a great job. I got through it. I'm done now. My pastor was like, oh, Sam. Oh, Sam. This is just preparing us for, just the way our life, it's like always preparing us for the next step. Oh,
amen, sister. Yeah. Can we just go there? Hopefully I'm not.
Go there, girl.
Okay.
Go there.
So I've struggled with my weight since I was a kid, and I've been successful at losing like 50 pounds over the course of like 20 years or something like that. And I think you and I even had this discussion where, I would like lose weight and then I would like plateau and just like hang out there. And then I would lose some more weight and then I'd plateau. And my last foray into this, if you will, was kind of like 2017, 2018 or something like that. I lost close to 20 pounds. I think I lost like 17. And I think I gained like 10 of it back. But that was like this on and off ride, like the 10 pounds was just like, I would stay within this like 10-pound window of it. And I never really thought that was a big deal, right? Like no big deal. And so really over like 2020, I was like, I really just want to be healthier. So I could tell that I was like gearing up for another, all right, here we go. Like another effort into this.
Getting ready.
Right? Yeah. But here's the thing. And I know myself so well, which is really fascinating enough that I was able to discern that this was happening. I already knew that the ways that I had lost the weight before weren't going to work this time. And it speaks to what you and your pastor were talking about, right? Yes, I had success at losing the weight by counting the calories and doing the exercise and the things and whatever tools and apps that I had used. But I knew, intuitively, I knew that what was required of me this time was going to take something else. It was, I was having to take it to a different, I actually do.
Good, share it, because you just described me to a T. And not only did I gained classic weight loss story. Twice in my life, I've lost big chunks of weight and kept it off for a few years. And then for a few years, it starts coming back on. And now here I am, the heaviest I've ever been. But I have been, two ways I could look at it. One way is I've been dragging my feet, but I think it's more so speaking to what you just said, is I just know, okay, I've done it twice. I know what to do. I know what I can do to lose it. But there's a bigger problem here, because when life kind of got crazy, that's been my coping mechanism. And I needed that hit of dopamine when life was hard. And the other thing too, is that when I got down to like my, we'll call it goal weight and everything, still was never good enough. And so when the weight started coming back on, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because it's like, well, I still needed to lose more. I'm still not good enough, still not this. And it's like, all of a sudden, how did I get to my heaviest? Because 50 pounds ago, I thought I'd already gained all the weight back, even though I hadn't. So for me, I have been, like I said, I'm trying to change it. Instead of dragging my feet, it's like there's something more, and I'm just kind of gearing up to what is this next? What is this next? Because I want to be healthy. You know what I mean? I do exercise and eat right and whatnot, and not have that as an unhealthy coping mechanism. Yeah. But yeah, that's been ruminating around.
Oh my gosh. So for me, it was really interesting what I figured out about myself. I think my prior success was really, it was forceful, right? It was kind of like pushing through, like, I'm going to do this, right? I'm
motivated.
That's right.
Ready.
Right. Yeah. And so you kind of like push through, and you either do it yourself, or you have a coach, or you have a program, or, you have some type of external accountability that's helping you get to the other side. Right. Forcing it, resisting something is not what's speaking to me now. And so I can tell that I'm in a different space. And I know that we've talked about this with Her Growth Collective. For me, it's compassion. It is giving a voice to that part of me that is scared to give up the food for emotional coping.
Say that one more time.
It is giving a voice to the part of me that is scared to give up that coping mechanism.
Okay, so now we need to just be like, all right, we've been using weight as the example, but what you said there is really profound. So I want to dig into that more, because that is anything, any coping mechanism, because any unhealthy behavior, and actually even healthy behaviors, if they're in excess,
that's right.
So it's just anything we use to cope is a way of dealing, or rather maybe not dealing with something.
Right. Because, and this goes back to something we've definitely talked about in HGC, which is my trigger of the word saboteur. Because I don't feel I would have resonated with that term had I known it and heard it years ago. But from a more compassionate place now that I treat myself, I don't believe that there's any part of me that wants anything bad for me.
Oh, yeah.
Not one. And not to say that that's the intention with which the saboteur, label is given, right? But that's the feeling that I get, is that there's this conscious or subconscious intention to sabotage.
Well, and right? That in the positive intelligence context, the saboteurs are trying to help you. So I think they're labeled saboteurs from the outside looking in, but it's that they're trying to help. Just side note with that. But
yeah. So the part of me that has been using that coping mechanism had not been given a platform. She had just been pushed aside, suppressed.
Yeah.
Discounted, right? It doesn't matter. We can just push through it.
So It's so funny, so much of whether it's people I've talked to on the podcast, things I've followed and read, a lot of it's about inner child work,
Mm-hmm.
and saboteurs in that context. But we could, switching it to the parts of ourselves that we need to show compassion to.
Mm-hmm.
From the things I've read, it's like they're all born from that place of the hurt inner child that is learning to cope. And the coping mechanism that worked when we're young and kept us, safe or whatever, end up, not being good for us later.
That's right.
So you give it a voice, because everyone wants to voice and to be heard.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, the other way that I work with women is inviting them to find their whole selves. Right? Lots of times, this is another trigger of mine. People feeling like they're broken. We are not effing broken.
Mm-hmm.
But there are different pieces and parts to us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I feel like it's a puzzle. Mm-hmm. It's meant to have distinction and edges and borders or parameters. For me, it looks like my mind versus my body versus my soul's journey, right? And that is really at the end of the day what it is that I want the alignment to look and feel like.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to be doing here? I've been given this vessel. I have my mind to help make things logical and have things make sense, right? And I have this body that gives me the physical capacity to move through this life, right? But we've also talked about the fact that it too has a wisdom all its own, right? And I, as the soul, am trying to figure out how do all these things work together so that I am in alignment with exactly where I'm supposed to be? How do I have that reverberate, right, through my life and all the things that I'm doing? Because at the end of the day, I think that we're supposed to be enjoying life, not surviving this. We're supposed to be enjoying it. And it doesn't mean that every single second is going to be wonderful. But I want to be able to say that I really had a good time while I was here. And I want to be able to model adulting as if it's something my child can look forward to. And at a point in time, that wasn't the case. Right. And that's what really got me triggered. I was like, what the F am I doing? I'm slugging it to a job that I hate. And my kid is like seeing me be upset about that. What?
Yeah.
Why would she want to become an adult?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing?
Yeah. What life?
We're supposed
but we just
to
get caught in it. That's like, this is the way it is. Because if people aren't asking the hard questions and if everything's just fine all the time, people don't know there's a better way.
Exactly. And so if we see everything as these problems that we're supposed to avoid and kind of push through and, all that, of course, it's going to be like practical misery.
Yeah.
Whereas if we see them as the invitations, right, we get to see it through a different lens and all of a sudden it takes on a completely different life.
Yep.
Right. But we have to give ourselves the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. So I feel like last year we discovered kintsugi, which is, I believe, Japanese pottery. And it's the broken pottery when it breaks, they put it back together with gold paint. And so the item becomes even better after it was broken and more beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love that because, when you said we're not broken, it's like so in my brain, it kind of goes like, well, we have stuff, but I also feel like we are whole because it's those cracks. That's the opportunity. And that's where, if not for those cracks. And so, using the pottery analogy, it's like, if not for those cracks, you wouldn't have that beautiful gold patterns, and whatnot. And it's like in our life, I'm contradicting you, but I'm not contradicting you. It's like, we are broken in our life. You know what I mean? Like we have cracks, if you like that, but that doesn't mean we're broken. You know, it's that there's all these pieces, but that we are also given the things we need to be whole.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like for us, just, that's been like a really nice, tangible thing to look at, you know, to kind of remind us that it's through those cracks that's what makes it whole and makes it better and stronger than it was before. And so it's almost like you just like, if you could have all these cracks and just ignore it and pretend, oh, it's still the same piece, you know, let's just ignore it. Yeah, sure. It has all these cracks in it, but we're just going to try to hold it together and not let it get ruined, where it's like, you know what, finish snapping it and then have it, you know, it's the whole wound and scar, you know, instead of having the messy wound, you know, let it have a healthy scar over it and heal.
Yeah.
So
I love that analogy. And I think that it really complements what I was trying to get at with the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Right. Because I do think that there are defined edges to the different pieces and parts to us. Yeah. And that can even be drilled down into different experiences and whatnot. Right. And so, like you said, it just, you know, however people want to see it and believe it so that it's empowering to them, I think is at the end of the day, what is useful. And it's what I strive for, you know, kind of like you were saying with like the book about potty training, like I have the answer, you know, and so you realize, whoa, it was the answer for only one child, right?
Yep. At one moment in time.
Right. And I think as a coach, that's what I try to get at, which is step into your power. I don't have the answer, but what I do have is the ability to help you find your answer.
So if people want to take Selfish Mama 101 with Tina Unrue, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they need to listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can find me on the web at selfishmama.com and at Facebook at Selfish Mama, and on Instagram, I had to adjust my handle a little bit. So on IG, it's Real Selfish Mama.
Awesome, Tina. Well, thanks for fleshing it out. I always love getting to chat and just peel back these layers. It's my favorite thing to do.
And that's a wrap for now.
Thanks for listening to Flushing It Out with Samantha Spittle. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and rate us on iTunes. For all things flushing, visit our website at flushingitout.com. This has been a Spitfire production.
That was the greatest thing I've ever heard.